All right, Box. So I'm calling you Box, which is what I'm going to call you for the rest of the interview. But it's actually Michael Bockstahler, and you're with Blue Fox Properties, and you're in Tucson, is what my notes say. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. So
Beautiful Tucson.
what was that?
Beautiful Tucson.
Beautiful Tucson. Yes. So you told me that you're not from Tucson. So give me a quick background because I think that's pretty material to the conversation. How long? First of all, how long you been with the role? And then, how did you find the role? And then what were you doing before the role and where were you from?
Okay, yeah, so I work for Blue Fox Properties. I've been with them since November of 2023 in this role. So a little over 6 months, but I've been actually in the actual going for sales for the past 4.5 months. Um, I moved here from San Diego. I'm a SoCal alum, born and bred Southern California. I moved here with my family in 2018, July of 2018, and I've been in sales my entire life, adult life, right? I guess entire life because I sold my mom on a few things too when I was a kid. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But yeah, I came to Tucson, became the director of membership for a private golf club out here called the Golf Club at Dove Mountain. Did that for about 2.5 years, and then immediately got into new home construction sales for a higher end luxury home builder out here. So I got into real estate when the pandemic hit because I saw some opportunity. And then I kind of parlayed that into a little bit more of a secured, more functioning position with Blue Fox. And after reading their website, having some conversations with the owner, I was blown away by his preparedness and his questions and his follow-up and things of that nature. And it was something different for me. So I'm used to working with corporate America, where I felt like more like a number on the paper, and he was just very genuine. His questions were definitely different, which I felt refreshing.
All right, fantastic. I want to ask you kind of about, what it is that's unique about Blue Fox. So the company you work for, you're out there representing your product, and I think that dovetails with what you just said around, it's kind of blown away. What are the unique differentiators? How would you describe what is unique about Blue Fox?
Probably first and foremost, the leadership. Steve Schultz, the owner and operator of the company. I don't think many companies in the country can say that their boss, their immediate boss and owner, was the president of NARPM. And not only that, I mean, he traveled the country, right? He traveled the country and he visited almost not every PM company, but every PM company that he wanted to grow and learn from, to make his own company here in Tucson the best it could possibly be, which is pretty special. I mean, he spent all of his time on the road initially when he first created the company, and then it just stems down from there. I have a counterpart that is, as bright or as process oriented as Steve, and she's a great role model, and I believe she's a member of Rentscale or a past member of Rentscale, and she's just amazing too. A great contributor to the team and also a mentor. The fact that I have those two people to go to and I've used relentlessly over the last 6 months definitely separates us, I think, from a lot of our competition.
That's great. And who's an ideal client for you? Who are you looking to serve?
Yeah, we definitely have a niche market. So we're the largest single family residence property management company here in Tucson. So we manage a little over 1,000 single family residences here, and only in Tucson. So we're local. So our niche market is unfurnished rentals, unfurnished single family residences, and that's all we do. We don't mess around and play to think we know property, we know multifamily or commercial. We might know it, but our niche and our go-to is the single family unfurnished residences.
Okay, great. So I understand that you are very competitive, and I was told to ask you about your sports background and that you thought that was a big part of that. So share what you want about, kind of your sports background and how that has shaped how you approach sales.
Yeah, so I am very, very, very competitive, almost to a fault. I've had to grow a lot as an adult outside of sports with my competitive nature, because it's a little bit different. When you're playing high level sports, you're literally with people with like minds, and they're very competitive as well. So they take it with a grain of salt. So I definitely had to mold my competitive nature in my professional development. But I grew up with 3 boys. So me and my twin brothers, they're 4 years younger than me, but we're the exact same person. Like I said, we all played high level sports. And I grew up playing every sport, right? When I got to college and I played even higher than that for baseball, it just became innate to me how much I hate to lose. So it's ridiculous. It's yes, I've had great months in sales, phenomenal months in sales, um, great wins, but I don't remember them. And just the other day, I didn't do so well on a discovery call, and it's still sticking with me. And since then, I've had like 5 or 6 great discovery calls, and I'm only thinking about the one. I was like, man, I thought I was prepared for that, but there was a few objections there that I wasn't too sharp on. So yeah, sports has definitely molded me into, I think, the salesman that I am. But that being said, I feel like, if you want to be successful in this role or just in sales in general, you have to be willing to grow. And I feel like some of my losses today would have definitely killed me 4, 5, 6 years ago, because I would have been like, all right, it's okay. I know you don't like to lose, but there's going to be, with every no, a yes is just about to come.
Yeah.
So that's my mentality now, but it's still very much based on my sports background and my competitive nature.
And you played college, and I heard you played a little pro, right?
Yeah, so I got picked up by the Cubs. I was getting looked at by them, but
Yeah.
I ended up having a career-ending injury that I just couldn't come back from. I ended up having, for people that know, Tommy John surgery, so it's reconstructive elbow surgery.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's okay. I mean, I got to
Sure.
marry my wife and have 3 kids. That probably might not have happened.
No, that's great. I just wanted to note that for the writers, because you said, yeah, I have a sports background, but you clearly were competitive enough to be looked at, like you said, and make it to that level. And so I can totally see why you are the way you are, which is great. And I really appreciate what you shared about not beating yourself up too much, and just knowing, hey, I'm gonna have some L's, and I gotta just stick around for the wins. But I think it's great because you're probably doing a little more than the average person would do, because you have experienced something at a high level where you realize that you just can't show up and let it be given to you, right? So, I mean, you want to just share with them? I feel like anybody who's gone through something with competition at a super high level just kind of understands you got to wake up, and like losses are in pain are just part of the process. Do you want to
You learn
elaborate
from
on
it,
that?
man. You learn from it, right? There's, I played baseball, right, which is the only sport in the world where you get paid millions of dollars to fail at, essentially. So if you're not process oriented, then you're not going to succeed, because we feel in our sport that when you have a slump, right, that's just not because you're having a bad day or a bad week or a bad month. There's something going on with your process, whether that's the way you're practicing, the way you're hitting the batting cages, or you're just your approach to the plate, right? So it's all process, process, process. Yes, you can be result oriented. I mean, result driven, but I believe in process oriented.
Great. As do I. So
Yeah.
that's what we teach about sales, yeah,
And I
just
and honestly, I have to contribute my mentality a lot to my father. So my father's been in oil sales for like, I don't know, 40, 50, 90 years, it feels like. And he helped me shape my mentality regarding, listen, man, be transparent, be yourself. Don't be fake, because even though they might say no, let someone else fail. Follow up, follow up, follow up, and 6, 8, 9, 10 months from now, that no is going to be a yes, because when the person they went with failed, because it's going to happen, they're going to come back to you, or they're going to come to you.
I love that. So, note for the writers here. I mean, philosophy of sales. This is huge, Box. Like, I love this. So, what I took away from that, you really riffed on follow up, and knowing that just because they say no today doesn't mean they're not a future client. I'm a big believer in that as well. You also kind of talked about transparency there. What else would you kind of share on your philosophy on sales?
Man, be the expert for sure. Be prepared. I've learned that through more actually through Steve here at Blue Fox and through Rent Scale. Um, he preaches on being an expert in your field. And one thing that I love to say on my calls is, listen, I'm not going to pretend to know everything about property management. I'm not going to pretend to know everything about, space, engineering or whatever, NASA stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the expert in all of the questions you're going to ask me regarding what Blue Fox can offer you and things of that nature. So I'm a big believer in being the expert, being the driving force of the conversation, leading the conversation. Don't be led by your prospect, because they're going to look for chinks in your armor, especially those savvy those landlords, investors, things of that nature. Yes, you might be able to fake your way with the newbies, but more chances than not, you're still dealing with some type of professional that's really, really smart, or at least they have enough brain power to see through the BS.
That's great. I love what you said about there about don't let them lead you to the sales. And I would just even add to that, that's not something that we do selfishly. I mean, I think I've learned through my career, like we owe that to them. Like they're calling us, they're looking to be helped. Like they're maybe buying the service once a year or once every 5 years. And we do this every single day. And so I just love, that philosophy that you're like, don't be led, lead them. Like that's what we need to show up with that mentality. Like we owe that to them for sure.
Yep. And there was two things that I learned through you guys in the videos with Jason and others that really, really hit me, was being a trusted advisor and not a vendor. Because I honestly feel like, even though I feel like I have certain abilities, natural abilities, that I feel like I use that as a scapegoat, right? So being a trusted advisor is one, and one that really, really changed everything for me was why change, why now, why us? Whereas before, I was all about why us. And I know I preach this with Jennifer and Reese. That was me to a T. Why us, why us, why us, vomit, 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 vomit. And like change now and then drop the hammer. Why us? And that was like, all right. That was the game changer for me.
I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah, me too as well. I can totally bond with you over that. When I became a different salesperson, when I went from being a master of why us to like a master of all three of the whys. Like it's entirely different. This is amazing.
Agreed.
All right. So I've also heard from my team that they're very proud of you for your networking ability and that you have specifically been out there working with specific people in the market. So tell me kind of about how you're out there meeting the people who know your next client.
Yeah, so I get together every week with Steve and we go over my plan and trying to get, what's enjoyable to me. And I really do firmly believe that specifically with prospecting and networking, it's got to be fun, right? You got to make it fun. And I enjoy meeting new people. I enjoy conversation. I enjoy turning a stranger into a friend, let's say. So the one of the main things that I'm really hitting on is targeting our top 150 sales agents here in Tucson, because Tucson's a little bit different. Specifically me coming from Southern California. So Southern California, as you know, with other markets that are major cities, you're kind of living for tomorrow, right? You better start thinking about tomorrow the next day, or else you're going to be left in the dust. Out here, when I first moved here, it's a little different mentality. It's almost like, I'll get to it tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So about 5% of the business out here is done by, I'm sorry, 95% of the business out here is done by about 5% of the sales agents. So what I'm targeting is about 150 sales agents, the top 150. And every day I'm communicating with 10 of them, right? With some type of news you could use, right? So I created a video where I talked to them about how PMs, property management companies, poach their agents that they referrals, right? And they turn that referral into a sale and they don't send them back to us. Well, this specific video is about, no, we'll send them back to you. We'll contact you and we'll let you know when they're ready to sell and we'll give you the opportunity to get them. I email that as a bomb. And then the next day I follow up with a phone call talking about the email. I was like, hey, did you get my email? What'd you think about that? Immediate conversation piece. So I do that for a 3-week period, and I just cycle through the 150. And once I'm done with the 150, then I have new content. I do another video. So I'm really, really honing on the top 150 right now with networking.
And so for the writers, I love what you just said. I just want to clarify, because this is insider baseball for you and I. For the writers, we're talking about transactional real estate agents, right? Like the top 150, local real estate agents. And how is that received? What's the response look like when you reach out to them?
Well, I mean, I want to keep people accountable. It's amazing the difference you have between the top 50 and the rest.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing how many of the top 50 answer the phone and how many of the other people go, oh, to get quicker service or to contact me quicker, send me a text. And if that rubs me the wrong way, who's tech savvy, doesn't mind texting at all,
Yeah.
you can imagine, people inquiring about business. So um, I'm new to it. I'm new to this whole networking thing with the 150, and I'm only on my like second month of doing it.
Mhm.
So, Steve has a great saying about pumping the well, and I'm sure you've heard it. You just got to keep pumping the well. So many people pump the well and stop pumping as soon as the water's about to come out. And
Yeah.
as soon as that water comes out, it flows much easier. You just keep on going and going and going, and that water just keeps on flowing, flowing, flowing. So that's my main point of focus is just keep pumping, pumping, pumping. And hopefully, I don't like the word hopeful, but down the line, it'll start flowing.
No, it's faith. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's all sales is like so few people will put in the work that has no return on investment for 90 days. Everyone's just immediate gratification. It's like, hey, I tried it, it's not working. But pumping the well is not an overnight thing, right? You just got to find out, 90 days from now, it starts gushing. And that, I mean, that to me, that is just what separates amateurs from the pros. So love that attitude.
Nice.
That's great. All right, so I want to ask you a few more questions about what's working, but one thing I always like to ask is, I know, selling property management is not the most common thing. So one of the questions I always like to ask is, how do you tell your friends and family what you do?
Oh man. Well, I tell them I do a lot. The two things that I like to say to them is I protect landlords from themselves, and I protect them from other property management companies. Tucson, there's not a lot out here that I would say uh, are top tier. I think that we are the #1 property management company here in Tucson, and I don't think it's close. Um, so that's kind of how I say it in a nutshell. I help educate landlords to the point where they can't help but let me help them, right? And when I say that, it's because there's so many changes in regulations and policies and procedures. There's so much red tape, and I don't try to scare them, but I try to educate them by trying to be as transparent as possible. I was like, listen, you have no idea what you're exposing yourself to, obviously in a more eloquent way, but that's it in a nutshell. I tell my friends and family, I protect homeowners, landlords, whether they're accidental or investors for themselves, because I don't care. You might be the savviest investor, but you don't know law. It's like you don't know all the red tape out there, and there's got to be something that you're leaving yourself exposed to. It's like alleviate yourself of that liability. And the next part, I tell them I protect them from other property managers, just to keep it simple. They know what I do because I talk a lot. So we always have conversations. So yeah, I keep that kind of sweet. And if they want to learn more, I'll dive more into it.
That's awesome. That is always a great question to ask because it's you just can't be like, oh, I'm a manager at this store, or I do this, or I sell X, because people don't really quite understand it if they're outside the market. So I always love asking that question, kind of getting that perspective on that. So let's just say I'm a new BDM, or I'm a BDM that's been in it for a couple of months, and I'm just not as successful as I want to be. And I'm not in the Tucson area, so you're actually willing to give me your best tips because I don't compete with you. Any advice or tips? I mean, any words for somebody who's kind of getting into this career and trying to know what they're getting into?
Yeah. So don't try to create the wheel, right? So like I said, I have a big background in corporate America, and I feel like I've had more coaching in the last 6 months, or at least the best coaching, where I've actually been coached, right? So I've had sales training, I've had coaching in the past, but this is how it went. All right, I want you to go ahead and create a script and um, and bring it to me on Tuesday, and we're going to go ahead and use it. I'm like, well, you've been in business for 150 years. You don't have a script for me that works that I can put my own personality and spin on. Like, so I think that you should learn from the most successful people around you. Surround yourself by successful people, first of all. Don't be asking anybody questions that A, aren't successful themselves or don't get it. And so that's definitely first and foremost. You definitely have to develop a script, right? A proven script that you're going to use religiously, at least for the first 5 to 10 minutes of the call, right? Every one of my calls starts out with, first off, if I identify the area code, I bring up, oh, Orange County. I'm from Orange County. What part? We're not even talking business, right? Or if I know a little bit about their last name's cool. I'm like, shh. Oganowski. Where's that from? That's like the most unique last name ever. So I start out like with some type of familiarity, right? Or like, hey, check out my Solara Bloom shirt if it's on Zoom.
Zoom
Anyway,
call.
yeah. So from that point, my call is always listen. I have a plan. Believe it or not, I have a plan for this call and for you. I want to learn about your property, yourself, your concerns and questions you have about this process, but most importantly, your goals and what you want to achieve with this process and what you want to gain from Blue Fox. Does that sound fair? Yeah. If that sounds fair, let's begin. That's how every one of my phone calls, besides the rapport building, the initial rapport building, starts. All of them. It doesn't change from there. And then I give the onus to them what they want to talk about. Typically, it's the goals, right? And then we'll lead into the questions, but and the property in themselves. So I definitely feel like you have to have a plan. Most importantly, that script be structured and consistent, and be the leader of the conversation. Do not let them lead you around. Like it's very easy for them to be like, no, I don't want to do this. Let's talk about your fees. Listen, I understand you want to talk about the fees. I want to know, I would want to know about the fees too, but I want to make sure that we are in alignment, right? There might be things that you learn about me that you hate, right? But what if you love my fees and you learn about my fees and I'm so inexpensive, and then you find out that you don't like anything we do, right? So I go to that. So you don't be led. So those are the main things that I do. Scripts. So rapport building a little bit, scripts, be consistent, and lead the conversation.
That's perfect. I find that, we always, want the deal to just kind of come to a head on the first call, right? Yes or no. But in reality, we know like real professional sales, like the fortune is in the follow-up to a certain extent. Any tips or any thoughts on follow-up and how to keep these people engaged once they're not ready to buy after the first call? I mean, again, given with that shirt and the way that you're saying those things, they probably are always buying. For the 5% that don't buy, what are any tips on following up with them and keeping in touch?
Yeah, so we do have a process here, following up every phone call with a bomb and a video, and we have a drip system and all that stuff, like mostly everyone does. But my
So I think a lot of people listening or reading this might not know what a bomb is. So do you mind just quickly giving me like what you say in the bomb or what you're doing so they can envision that?
Yeah, so you know what? It's a bomb that it's a video, right? It's a live video where you take and you upload it very simply, at least with Lead Simple. That's the CRM that we use. It's just, really quick and brief. Listen, let them know that you listened. Hey, thank you so much, so and so, for your time today. I don't take it lightly, and I appreciate it. I'm going to send you a copy of our agreement to take a look at, to educate yourself, and then I'm going to be following up with you the next coming days to answer any other further questions you may have. So I just keep it simple like that. I typically
I appreciate you doing that. Just want to say, I bet you 95% of the industry doesn't know what that is and doesn't do that. And so that's why I know you were like, oh, I just sent a bomb and I do this thing. And yes, our community knows that. But I'll be honest, I bet 95% of property management companies and BDMs don't even know what that is. Don't even think about that. So I just wanted to put a pin in that, but please continue.
Got it. Yeah, and then but you know what? Honestly, at the end of every call, I try to close them too. So I think you should be closing with every conversation.
Yeah.
And so it could be simply like, listen, what's your most favorite way to communicate? Is that phone call? Is that email? Is that text? And I'll let you know, because it's like actually for immediate responses, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, I enjoy texting. If you have a question you need answered right away, go ahead and send me a text. But what is your preferred, form of communication? And I'll let you know. And you not only does that set you up for success, but it could potentially set up your teammates for success as well. So you let the onboarding specialist listen. They don't do phone calls. They do emails and text messages, or they don't like texting or technology. They actually want to talk to you over the phone, and you share that information with them. So that's how I leave each phone call and each follow-up.
Perfect. It's perfect. Well, this has been rich, I will say, Box. I can see why you're doing so well.
Thank you.
Obviously want to give you a chance to share anything you want, but a very specific question, kind of while you're thinking about that is, middle of the year, right? If I called you at the end of the year, it's we're like turning into 2025. Where are you going to be? What are your goals for the rest of the year?
Oh man. Well, my goal is to compete and surpass Sylvia. She is a powerhouse.
And Sylvia is your counterpart there at Blue
Yeah,
Fox, right? Yeah,
yeah, she's my teammate. Yeah, for sure. She's my go-to girl. I can count on her for a lot. And she does things that not completely different, but her style is different than mine. But I feel like her strengths are definitely my weaknesses. And I think vice versa. I think she can say that. So yeah, my goal is to surpass her and compete with her, because I don't mind competing with people better than me. That's what I did my entire uh, young life, growing up, trying to compete with people better than me, because I think that makes you
sure.
better. But yeah, I want to grow as the company grows. I want to be involved in strategic conversations that help with the development of the company. That puts me in the right spot, because at the end of the day, I want to put my family in the right spot as well. So as long as those two things are congruent and they work together, then I'm game.
Anything else you want to share? Any other tips for anybody?
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is not the most important things. I think we've talked about several that I've taken away from Steve, and his mantra is setting up your team for success. Yes, I know as salespeople, we love the sale. We love to get people in, get that agreement in, and get the paycheck. I understand that. But I mean, if you're a true teammate, you don't want to be handing off your onboarding specialists or your property managers. We call them CRMs. But anyway, you don't want to set them up for failure, right? It's okay, and Steve's okay with saying no. Steve's okay with saying, listen, I don't think we're a right fit, even if they're willing to sign it on the dotted line.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, like Rentscale preaches, we are trusted advisors. And if we're not in alignment, if you like what I say, but I don't like what I see regarding the property, or here coming out here, then I don't think we should work together, and vice versa, right? If you don't like what you hear, but I like what I see, then we probably should work together. So yeah, that's probably the greatest piece of advice that I can throw on to the next person that wants their company to succeed. Now, if you just want yourself to succeed, that's one thing and frowned upon in my opinion. But yeah, I feel like you should try everything in your power to set your teammates up for success. And I know it won't happen right away, because you yourself, as a new BDM, you're learning the ropes, so you might not be able to identify certain things. I still run that gambit. I used to work in just one little small part of Tucson called Dove Mountain for my entire career here in Tucson. Now that I work for Blue Fox, I'm all over Tucson. So I don't know actually a lot of the areas, right? Like how sketchy they are, or what homes should have code boxes, what homes should be self-showing, stuff like that. I'm growing and learning in that role. So I know in the future, if a property is in a certain area, I'm going to set my onboarding specialists up for success, because I'm going to let them know, listen, no code box for this property, to try to avoid squatters, things of that nature.
It's amazing. Well, I appreciate it, Box. You shared a lot very quickly. That was amazing. So really appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I'm flattered, man. Last interview I did was coming off my elbow, because it was like a comeback piece with a newspaper, not digital articles or YouTube videos. And so I'm flattered. I
Yeah.
know I've only been here for a short time. I feel like I'm with the best team, not only here at Blue Fox, but with Rentscale. Shout out to the Charlie company. I feel like
Big Club
everyone.
Charlie. Shout out. That was a good group.
Yeah, good group, man. We have great conversations every week, and I look for it. I come out more pumped. Coming from those conversations. Shout out to Reese, because he's awesome, and yeah, man. I appreciate the opportunity for this interview, and like I said, I'm flattered.
Yeah, well, it's not a comeback story. It's the next level story. Like to see the next level of your career. It's awesome.
Well, thanks, Jeremy.